Jalen Milroe named quarterback. Lot to talk about as Alabama gets ready for Ole Miss. Roydell Williams coming off of a big game for the Crimson Tide. And Nick Saban spoke today on a lot of different things. We're going to talk about those. But first, before we do, thank you guys for being here. It's Bama Tailgate Daily. I'm Mick Gillispie. Be part of our channel. Closing in on 1,000 subscribers. When we get there, we're giving away a Daniel Moore print from New Life Art. If you don't want to wait to see if you win, or maybe you don't win, but you want to pimp out your man cave, Bama Tailgate, that's the discount code to use, or Mick Gillispie. You can use either one of those. But the pictures are amazing, and you know that already. Now's a great time to check out what they've got, including the new calendars for this year. So Nick Saban said it, and I thought yesterday, after evaluating the performance, myself seeing what Tyler Buchner did, seeing Ty Simpson, who was definitely better than Buchner, and then looking back at Milroe, I'm not surprised that Nick Saban named him starting QB. I was surprised, though, that he came out in the press conference today and said, hey, I liked the leadership that he showed on the sideline. He's the best of the bunch. He's going to be our quarterback moving forward. I think that's good for the team. Not to say that Ty Simpson won't eventually play quarterback, but it's obvious with the offensive line issues, 5 more sacks last game. He was running for his life against Texas. You got to have someone that can get away from the rush. Milroe's also the guy that can make explosive plays. Yeah, there are some deficiencies. He's going to have to get better. He's going to have to learn on the job, but he won the job. And I just think that it was a good sign that Nick Saban came in and on Monday cleared everything up. No more controversy. It's Jalen Milroe. Let's move forward. And there's the stats: 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And after the struggles that Alabama had against South Florida, I just felt like if he was in that game, they would have scored more than 17 points. But a lot of noise right now about Alabama, about this program. People aren't used to seeing the Crimson Tide in a spot where they look vulnerable. They haven't looked this vulnerable since 2007. Let me go back another 10 years, another decade. 2007, Nick Saban's first season. And that year, you felt like the team was moving in the right direction. They were going to bring in a great recruiting class. They had some of the top players in the country. All of the energy that you see with Colorado was with Nick Saban coming to Alabama. You could feel it everywhere you go. This season, it's been a struggle. A lot of different things going wrong for Alabama. We've talked about them on here: the penalties, the turnovers, the offensive line, the quarterback play, the defensive pass rush, and they're going to try to get those figured out. The problem is that you got Ole Miss coming in on Saturday, and we're going to talk about 2 of our former assistants that are now with the Rebels that are going to want to beat Alabama badly, and I'm going to tell you why. But I want to start with this. A guy that I met, Josh Pate, he's with 24/7 Sports. He is a really good host, and I believe him when I see a show. And one of you guys sent me the clip of him talking about Alabama's performance on Saturday. And what he said was that he's watching the game, and then he talked to some of the people that he talks to about watching film, and that they felt like Alabama's players weren't giving 100% because they weren't happy with who was at quarterback, meaning Tyler Buchner. Well, look, Buchner was in there, and he looked terrible. I don't know. You know, Nick Saban kind of talked about it today at his press conference, and he said that he felt more like that the players are frustrated that things aren't going well, and maybe that's why the performance might not have been what our standard is. I think there's a bigger point here, and this really, really concerns me. Back in 2000, I think it was 2000, right? You had Andrew Zal and Tyler Watson. They won Alabama won the SEC in 99, and they lost to Tom Brady in an epic Orange Bowl. They took care of business in the swamp against the Gators. You know, they won in Auburn for the first time. They did that. They had Sean Alexander, they had Chris Samuels, and then they came back the next year. They were highly rated, and they ended up having a terrible season. and one of the most disappointing seasons in school history. And we were hearing about stuff like this, that maybe guys did not give full effort depending on who the quarterback was. I don't know if it was true or not, but I just remember hearing that and then seeing what happened that particular season. It was a disaster. And what I'm hoping is that Josh Pate and the people that he watches are wrong. Because if they're right, Alabama's got some huge problems, and this could be not only a bad season, and a bad season, I guess, for Alabama standards would be like 9-3, 8-4. This could be a bad season, like 3-win type season, 4-win type season, 5-win type season. If the players decide that they're not going to play their best because they're not happy with someone starting at quarterback or another position, then you got big problems. It's what happened to the process, what happened to buying into the team. And I think that maybe a lot of these Alabama players who have mentioned that they're not, that they feel like maybe the players are there for NIL and they're not there to try to win. Maybe they're right. Maybe they know something that we don't know. But I can tell you this, if Josh at late kick is right, Alabama could be on the verge of a disaster. And this could be one of the worst seasons that Nick Saban's ever had. Now, I don't think the players are ready to go down that road yet. On the next round, and then you can see it on Roll Tide Pods, which is also the host of my show with Jake Coker, the 2015 national championship winning quarterback, as you guys know. Tyler Booker, the offensive lineman, said that there was a players-only meeting after the game against South Florida. And I'm sure in that meeting, if the leaders got up there and said, hey, we're not happy with what's going on right now, and we got to work together as a team, things could change in a hurry. And that's what I'm hoping happens, because I saw the clip, and for Josh to go out there and say that and kind of put his reputation and name on the line, that's a pretty big assumption if you're assuming. And I think he's pretty confident in what he saw and what his people saw. So and then hearing Nick Saban in the press conference today, I thought he addressed it a little bit, maybe kind of. And if that's the case, then there's probably a lot more to it than just, just saying, hey, this guy didn't block in this spot or whatever. So hopefully Booker and the leaders on this team can bring Alabama together, because the schedule is about to get really tough. And as you guys know, Alabama not in the top 10 for the first time in forever. And if they lose this game, they might not be in the top 25 for the first time in forever. Another thing, Lane Kiffin talked about Kevin Steele not running the defense. He said T-Rob, which is Javarius Robinson, who is part of Alabama's coaching staff, and he's been on the sideline. And Nick Saban actually talked about this today. Kiffin said that the reason that he thought Robinson or T-Rob was running Alabama's defense and not Kevin Steele is systematic schemes. That he said, hey, I see systematically what we saw when Robinson was at South Carolina and not what Kevin Steele does. Nick Saban said that T-Rob's job changed a little bit to help get the plays out on the field faster. Because if you remember in the Texas game, Alabama was standing around on defense wondering what play was being called. Do you remember that? And it happened multiple times. And when teams really pick up momentum and speed and they're trying to go fast, that becomes a big issue. So Saban talked about that today, and I'm curious how that plays out moving forward. Now, the final thing I wanted to get into was, guess who's back? Yep, Lane Kiffin was a phenomenal offensive coordinator, has a host of issues going on, or at least he did when he was in Alabama and other spots off the field. He's a genius offensive coordinator. He's actually been a pretty good head coach in the SEC at Ole Miss, probably a great spot for him. And then the much maligned Pete Golding, who's now the defensive coordinator for the Rebels. If there is a group that would love to stick it to Alabama in their time of need, it's these guys. Lane Kiffin wants to beat Alabama badly. He said that before, and so do all the coaches. But in particular, Kiffin, you remember how he left. If he would have stuck around and been focused on his job, Alabama beats Clemson, in my opinion, and wins that national championship down in Tampa. Instead, he was off doing recruiting for the school in Florida that he was working at before he ended up at Ole Miss. And then Pete Golding, who was kind of the captain of a steady decline in Alabama's defense, now with Ole Miss. But he took a lot of heat in Tuscaloosa, fans, media. And so it's going to be interesting to really see what happens on Saturday, 2:30, when Alabama kicks off. So I'm curious as far as the schemes go for both of these guys. I think Alabama is definitely going to see Kiffin and Golding's best on Saturday. They're going to have to be ready. And there's just all of this outside noise and distractions. Nick Saban's the best to ever coach, but I think he might have his toughest coaching assignment. How the team's playing, all the noise outside, the fact that there could be players on the team that aren't going to give their best because they're not happy with players that are starting that they don't think deserve that, according to reports that we just talked about. And he's got to get all of this stuff moving in the right direction. The good news is that Alabama has a ton of talent. I thought Roydell Williams played an excellent game, going back and watching the second half of that football game against South Florida. Jalen Milroe, starting quarterback now. We got that figured out. And I guess we'll see what happens moving forward. Anyway, guys, thank you for being here. Make sure that you like and subscribe. I have enjoyed reading all of your messages, and we're this close to giving away that Jalen Hurts Crimson Redemption full-size Daniel Moore print to one of you guys. So hey, help me get to 1,000 subscribers, and as soon as we do, we're gonna pick somebody, and their Roll Tide will be that incredible print.